Okay, making a little bit more progress. I was working on the steering. So, because I added a 1/4 inch plate on each side to raise up the front wheels, the steering shaft was a 1/2 inch too short. Not only that, it didn't reach anymore because I raised that up quite a bit. So basically, this is what I did to the shaft. I put a little coupler and welded it, and I extended the rods up on each end. So let me show you how that's going to work. Goes underneath and it comes up. Now it's still a little bit of sloppy, so I'm going to get some bushings because these are worn out. If these are out, I can weld a couple washers or a spacer, drill out a nut or whatever. That will tighten that up. For the actual steering arm itself, same thing. I had to change the height, so I welded it. But all in all, steering works. Don't forget, once the motor's in, everything's tight. All this is temporary. I'm gonna have to cut this off over here because it's close. We're just getting it in the working stages. Alright, now back here, we did the axle flip and 180, which turns everything backwards. Okay, so that's that all bolted in. There's 4 bolts here. It normally was on, when it was on this side, it was on the top 2 holes, and on the bottom there was 2 holes, but they weren't threaded, so I had to tap them, 1/4 20s, oh I'm sorry, 5/16 bolts. I tapped them out, put bolts in them, and there's the bracket. This thing's gonna work okay. I don't have the spring hooked up yet. And so now the shift linkage. That took a little bit of ingenuity. The handle for the shift linkage, I don't know how well you can see it, but came up through the bottom of the chassis, through there, and connected to a rod going when the transmission was facing that way. Well, I come up with this mechanism right here, and let me put this on and I'll show you how that looks. Alright, as far as the shifter, I took a piece of flat stock, I took the 2 existing holes, I nut and bolted it, and I come across up here with a little piece of channel iron, replicating how it came through the chassis. It's 2 holes and a slot. So I actually welded a washer to the bracket, and I got a washer on the bottom. And as you can see, shift linkage works fine. I am going to weld it to here. I haven't finished doing that. Like I said, this linkage is going to be okay. The next thing I'm going to work on is the brakes. So I'm pretty sure it's a pull brake. I gotta look into that a little further. I had a cable hooked up to the clutch mechanism, I believe, and I would actually do away with the brakes, but seeing it for my grandkids, I'm gonna make sure that brake does work. I keep calling it brakes, but it's only 1 brake on that disc. So we are making progress. Like I said, as far as the front axle, I'm gonna have to get some bushings. It's a little bit sloppy, the steering down there. None of this is welded in, it's all tacked, but I'm going to do new bushings. The worst case scenario, if I can't get the right size bushing, I can weld a couple washers on each side and I'll take up the slack. As you can see, I got plenty of clearance under there. You know, basically just trying to get this thing back to working order. I did have to hack up this whole back plate here. And I'm kind of glad that I'm using it. Like I said, I'll be able to weld it to that. If not, I could have welded a piece there. But next up, I'll be working on the brake linkage and getting the motor back in. I haven't ordered a starter yet. I didn't want to order until I knew I definitely didn't have one. But I'm going to set the motor in and put the belts on. I got to figure out a few springs where they go. I dragged this big one. I don't know how I'm going to tug it way the hell back there, but yeah, so we're making progress. And that's it. I hope you all like this project. You know, something different from Papa Kenny's workshop. But we're getting there slowly but surely. A lot of this stuff will probably change when I set that wheelbarrow on. And I'm using that wheelbarrow because with fenders afterwards, because it's going to look like a 32 Ford. Yeah, I know it's hard to picture. I got a little grill that I'm gonna have to cut. I explained that in the other video. Cut, you know, cut, dice, and slice, and however to make it fit, and find a mesh there that looks like a radiator. But the big thing on this, the big thing is the wheelbarrow sitting. Where I'm gonna place that, how I'm gonna mount it. So I know this is gonna have to move again, but that's okay. All right, people. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you keep coming back. Don't forget to hit that like button and go ahead and share the video. It helps me grow the channel. My wife told me I can't build a big old garage over here until I get 500 subscribers. Alright people, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. That'll probably be part 3 or 2.5 or 3.5. It's going to be a lengthy video, so I'm cutting it up into probably 6 parts. We'll see. Alright, we'll see you in the next one. Alright, so here we are. I don't know what part this is, 3, 4, 5, 2, whatever it may be. I just want to show you progress. Alright, so we did an axle flip on this, rear axle flip, and rotated 180 degrees to get the right rotation on the wheels. I hope I did that right. Alright, so that gave us about a 3-inch drop. So when you do that, flipped over, changes the angle and all the stuff with the pulleys. So basically I had to flip everything upside down, add a few brackets to this pulley system here for the transmission. I had to add a tab for the spring, and also the tensioner spring for the clutch. I originally was going to the back corner over here, but it was way too tight. So what I did was welded a piece of angle iron down in there, and I ran the spring too. I'm going to have to fine tune all these little things, but right now we're trying to get it up and running. The shifter lever was on the other side. I showed you guys that. I had made this for it. This setup is working pretty good. The next big thing is I'm working on the belts. The transmission's lined up pretty good. It's the pulley coming off the engine that drives everything. And that's the pulley there. So, with basically the amount that we dropped this, I have to cut this pulley down. This is the one I'll be using. This being the deck, this is going to run the whole tractor itself. So I got to take like 3 inches out of that. Rather than fight and argue with that, I searched around. I know I saved everything, and I came across this here. It's keyed. It's a 1 inch, same exact shaft, and I actually had a pulley that was the same size, so I had to grind it down. I'm going to weld that hub in there without destroying the pulley. I think I got this for another project, or a snowblower or something at Tractor Supply. I think this too. I was building a snowblower with a bigger engine. I don't know, whatever it is, but I happen to have this. So you guys may have to go do this or cut this down. I didn't feel like cutting it down. I plan on cutting it down. I'm going to eventually use this pulley on the engine, the small one, to make this thing walk, you know, pretty fast. But right now I'm concentrating on getting it working and operational. Then we'll start doing some big modifications. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tack this in there. Then I'll be able to set my height. Otherwise, this thing was going to be dragging on the ground. You seen what I did with the steering? I had to, because I raised the front axle up. Give me some good rake. I'm going to weld some gussets in here. I got to finish welding all this stuff up. But it's pretty much in place. Like I said, this pulley was dragging on the ground. That's how I'm going to fix that. Alright, so I got the front end all gusseted up and welded up. I welded the pulley. Just a couple welds, because I plan on cutting this off and putting a smaller pulley or a bigger pulley, one way or the other. I get a keyway. The only other problem I may have is that this bolt is pretty long and it's fine thread. I don't know if it's metric or whatever, so I'm gonna have to find one of them bolts. I'm gonna get the pulley on, get the belt on it, get it back on the ground, and we're gonna see if this baby fires up. What do you all think of that? Alright, let me get this pulley on. Right here, just to recap, See, I changed the pulley. I welded a hub to a similar size pulley and put it on the motor. I did run into some problems. I had to put a spacer there. I had to go find the right size bolt that happened to be fine tread. It was 7/16 fine tread that went into the shaft of the mower. The problem I ran into was this belt. When I tried to make it level across, straight across, I had interference with this clutch bar going across. So I put a little spacer on it to bring it down about a 1/2 inch lower than this bar that goes across. That's one issue I ran into. Right now, I'm trying to get this thing, before I go any further, to get this motor to spin over on itself. The other thing I did, I ran the harness temporarily, and I don't recommend this to anybody. I'm not a professional, and I highly do not recommend this. But I pulled out all these safety stuff, and all I did was eliminate all the yellow wires from the ignition back. I cut them out, and I connected the orange and black stripe wire to the orange and white stripe wire. I connected them together, and they come all the way back here. But I don't recommend anybody to do that. By no means. Can't emphasize that enough. The seat switch, the clutch switch, the reverse switch, I don't recommend that. I did this for starting purposes only. Okay? I hope I made that clear enough. So this engine, from the beginning, has been hard starting. So I ruled out the battery. I thought it was the starter. I ruled out the starter. I do have 12 volts here. And with the plug out, you can see this thing spins over like a bear. You put the plug in, not so much. Let me demonstrate. By the way, I did verify I had spark. Make sure your solenoid's grounded. Let me just put this plug in, just hand tight, and I'll show you what it does with the plug in. And we're not going to go any farther till we get this all squared away. It's one of two things, or both, actually. So the plug's in. See that? So that's one of two things. There's a combustion relief thing. I don't know what the exact thing. It's a pressure relief valve that's attached to the cam. Either that's gone. What that does when it builds up compression and it comes around on the intake or the exhaust, I'm not exactly 100% sure. I'm not a professional at this, but it's like a pressure relief. Or the valves are out of timing or adjustment, and they're under here. So before we go any further, we're going to check that. So let me set up the tripod. I'm going to pull this off. We're going to show you how we're going to adjust the valves and see if that makes a difference. Alright, let me get the tripod set up. Alright, we're going to first start by removing this valve cover. I don't know how hard it's going to be to come off. 4 10mm bolts. Oh, come right off. Look at that. Gasket's intact. Alright. I'm going to do this with both valves closed. So I'm going to turn it by hand. There you see the intake valve opening. Going around the exhaust valve. And then just before. Alright. That's how we're going to check them. 4 thousandths. You got that? There's all different ones. I'm going to try 4 thousandths. So, actually that one's pretty good. Might be a tad tight. Let's check the bottom. That's real tight. So how these work, there's a Torx screw in the middle, and this is the adjustment on the outside. It's a Torx 20, and I'm using a 5/8 wrench. So you just want to unlock that a little bit, back the nut off. Until you get play in there. Okay. Oh, see that? Almost there. They're just about dragging. I gotta go just a little bit more. Let's try that. A little loose. Back it. Kind of hard. There's a fine line right there. Alright, let's try that. See, we're going to put the plug in and see if it spins over any easier. Get our valves adjusted. See what it does. Look at that. So, lesson learned. Before you can buy a new battery or a new starter, check to make sure your valves are adjusted. Top dead center. I adjusted these at 4.004 thousandths. Alright, so just to recap it, you got a Torx 20 screw in here. They're all different. Some of these I guess are 10 millimeters or whatnot. You just want to break that free, put your feeler gauge in there. Okay, let me get this on top dead center. Okay, top dead center. This valve is fully open. Okay, and you put your fuel gauge, bring it in closer. Just want to fit it in there. All right. So once you get your adjustment on your nut, tighten it down. Rotate this thing around a couple times. All right. Exhaust valves open, same thing, adjust. See that? Perfect. All right, another thing to watch for, and it's very hard to see, that compression relief is on over here. You'll see it. It's like a little bit of a bump. A little bit of a bump. I don't even know if you can see it on camera. All right, valves open. Close. Up. You see the little bump? Let me get you in closer over here. That's how you know if your camshaft's good. This thing will give a little bit of bump. Go around. You'll see it. I'll let you know when it's going to happen. Valve's closing. It's going to come back up, and it's going to, right after it gets closed, you're going to see a little bit of a bump. See it? Right there? See it right there? That's that little bump. That's a compression relief. Alright, put this thing back together. We know we got spark. I'm going to put the gas tank on it. And we're going to fire it up. See how she runs. The belt's a little bit of iffy. Got some adjustments maybe to do. But I can at least start it in neutral and see where we go from there. Alright, let me get the gas tank on. I got to get a big zip tie because that's how it was tied in when I got it. And we should. Alright, so the valve adjuster turns over. I put the plug in it and I spun it over a couple times, and I had an issue with spark, intermittent spark. I kept double checking my wires, checking grounds. To make a long story short, this stupid freaking coil, I took one off a lawnmower, way too short. It's probably gonna burn there. So check it out. I get a hot wire to shut it off. Here's my shut off. So we know it runs. I did throw the seat on. I keep throwing the belt off the front pulley. So now I probably should have did all this with the engine, but Rich told me it ran. I took his word for it. And it does. But so now I gotta play around with these belts. Now, I don't know, by moving this forward, did this belt too small now, and does that keep while it's throwing? I thought of that. I'm really not sure how this whole pulley system works, to be honest with you. But the transmission one seems to be working fine. It's this drive belt, so I may have to get a shorter belt. I was thinking about that. If this pulley was flipped around, this belt would be longer and it would keep more tension on it. But as soon as I start it, it throws it. And then again, like I said, it's not perfectly straight either. And I don't have a guard on there yet that keeps the belt in place or flop it off or whatever that stupid guard works. So we got a couple little issues to work out with the belts and the pulleys, but at least we know she runs and she looks good. Man, she's pretty loud. I'm keeping it wide open exhaust. I'm eventually gonna have a continue this head up, this pipe down and out, and it's gonna come out here over the side. It's gonna be a wide open header. Man, my neighbors are gonna love me. Between rattle can and this thing, they're gonna love me. All right, so that's where we're at. I don't know if I'm gonna pick up this video from here or the next video may be me adjusting the pulleys. I don't know yet. I'm gonna think this all out. I gotta do a little bit of more research. But basically, you guys, if you got a lawnmower, a ride-on mower, and you're turning the thing over, and you know your battery's charged, and the thing turns over slow, real slow, pull your plug out, and then try it. If it spins over fast enough, it's not your starter, it's not your battery, and it's not your solenoid. Check your valve adjustments. And like I said, while you're in there, check for the compression release on the exhaust side. It's just like a little bit of a bump. Your engine may be different than mine, and so I don't know what your I did an in the middle valve adjustment at 0.004. All right, so we'll see you shortly. I hope you appreciate it. Please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this thing overall right now. It's a project that we're fighting through. Never did anything like this before, and each problem we come across, we're tackling. So that's basically how this whole thing's gonna come out. Alright, so here's a pulley I made for the front. I don't know if it's gonna work. It was around the front pulley up by the engine. Hopefully that's gonna keep the belt on. We'll see. Alright, so I'm waiting for my wife to come out. Not too bad, huh? I did put the muffler on. It's kind of loud. My neighbors hate me already because of rattle can. So, gotta check it out. She's a little feisty, but just like rattle can. Why is it everything I build is radical? Yeah, we got some things to work out, but you'll see in 1 second. All right, there we go.
Look at that helmet.